I don't understand the technology and all this. Yeah.
I'm with Jimmy and Sweet Pea, Connie. Say hi, Connie.
Hello.
It's Bill. Bill's
How you doing?
renting a room for Jimmy. So this is the first time Jimmy and Connie met, and I call her Sweet Pea. So Sweet Pea watches a lot of the videos like this. She watched this one, I'm sure, as well, even though she's here. And I told Sweet Pea today. Those of you that watch the videos and you saw that I was sharing some situations with my daughter's ranch, and one the other night after I was dealing with some of that, I thought to myself, I'm going to have Sweet Pea meet my daughter, because Sweet Pea has some experiences that were a lot like what my daughter was explaining to me. So I texted Sweet Pea and I said, try to meet Becky. Well, it wound up that today we went to her ranch and we anointed with oil. We drove around her property and we prayed for her property. And so that's what we've been doing today. And I said on the way back, we'll try to, we were going to pray for Pops, but he's having his cancer treatment right now, his chemo. So he don't get back till like 3 and it's about 1:30. I said, I want you to meet Jimmy if he's around, because you've not met him yet. And I told Jimmy the other day, I said, Connie watched one of the videos where you were talking, which was right here, and God used that, because Jimmy shared about some reasons he had bitterness in the past because his wife was very sick. Tell a little of that story, Jimmy.
It was she had a brain aneurysm, and some years before that, when we got together, she mentioned it, and not to ever get her excited, and I looked at her and I said, what the hell are you talking about? You're in perfect health. You're the epitome of health and good looks. You just want some sympathy? Oh, I love you, honey. What's the matter with you? You don't have to do all that to get some sympathy from me. I love you. I always love you. And 4 years later it happened. And I was at work, and she was with her mom, and they were going to go shopping, and Mom's getting ready, and she flopped down on the kitchen floor. I was looking at that. And I didn't understand that. And I begged my father to get all his buddies, go give her the Mormon lesson. It's the Melchizedek priesthood. And they have the power to make miracles.
The elders for the church,
yes,
being you raised Mormon, to pray.
Given, just like
yes.
Jesus said, you'll give the Spirit, wait for the Spirit. They did, they got it, and then they started doing miracles. And it's been passed down, hand out, hand, and all the way down. And I knew about that, and I said, man, I'll do anything. Give me my wife back. And so I made a deal. I'll be your best little Mormon boy. I'm in it.
You were repentant because you thought, I'm sorry, God, I'm going to get right. Just heal my wife.
Please, give me my wife. And she lingered for 2 more weeks.
2 weeks.
And she came out of coma 4 days. She was paralyzed, half her body. And I remember I rubbed her butt to her every bite on that one side just because it's numb. You know, she could move. And she just lingered 2 weeks because my father, and this is the part I didn't know, I just found out a couple months ago when I come back from Oklahoma. When I went to Oklahoma and talked to my mom, and she said, Jimbo, did you know that Phyllis lingered for 2 weeks? And I said, I remember. And then she died, and I was very bitter. She lingered. Even then, to the second I got back there to hold her, she died in my arms. And the last thing I said is, just take it easy. She's blood and fever. And she slowed down and passed. And a little while, you know, I said, okay, fuck you, God, and I fucking walk away. I'm just pissed off, man. One very pissed off hand, and I dove right into everything.
You thought she was going to get healed, because she already came out of the
I made
coma.
your deal. You got the deal. You said, no, okay, see you later. And I walked away, and I didn't understand for a long time, 35 years. I was ostracized, and I come back to the ranch. All kinds of changes, and I stayed the whole time, and I know that's the Lord. And my righteous dead relatives begging Him for my soul, you know, and that's what Mom says. And I've done insane shit, man. Things that should have killed me. They don't.
The part that Connie remembered when Jimmy shared this was he understood that if she lived, if she survived, she would have been an invalid.
I didn't even think about that.
And later he realized that in a way God permitted.
He took her home because it was time for her to come home.
Yes.
And the blessing kept her around for 2 weeks. She lingered.
To hear that.
And she didn't leave She didn't go until my father had released her. She was just laying there, sick and hard and ready to go. And it was my childish desires and the power of this miracle. And our father wanted her to come home. And then when my father released her of it, he found out that the Lord told him. And so he released her, and then she died. But even then, they called me. I was at work, still building a man's house, and I didn't want. These are the things that kick your fucking ass for the rest of your life. Is the things you do in the last seconds. You think, why did I do that? I could have helped her a little longer, or this or that more time. The seconds, you know.
We don't always understand.
No, you don't know.
Why. We don't understand the whys and the reasons. And you
know,
somebody that I love passed away July the 7th, got hit by a car, and I had prayed for somebody before at the hospital that was dead on a respirator, and the Lord raised him up. And so when I prayed, I expected the Lord to raise him up, and I knew he could.
Yes.
But he didn't. Now, he did squeeze my hand. The Lord had mercy on me to get me to the hospital, because he actually died on the road after he got hit 5 minutes, and they brought him back. And I think that was for me, because when I prayed for him, the Lord filled the whole hospital room up, and I felt a release. And I thought, okay, Lord, you're going to raise him up, because I've experienced that.
Yeah, you had done it once.
Yeah, I knew that he could. And he didn't have any reflexes except in his left hand, but he squeezed. When I squeezed, I said, "It's me, Connie." He squeezed my hand. And it was like...
Then he come back slowly?
No. His kids pulled the plug on him like 5 days later. He didn't even live another week. And I was saying, why did they pull it? Because I fully knew that. And then when he quit breathing, he stayed alive almost 24 hours breathing on his own barely. And then he went, and then when I heard your testimony, you know, I just couldn't get it, and I thought, well, when you said that, he could have been paralyzed, and I was going to bring him home and take care of him, and it would have been
paralyzed all his life. It would have been a burden.
And when you said that, it would have
wrecked your life.
Think, yeah.
I didn't understand none of this.
Yeah.
All I know is that he could have done it perfect.
So that really helped me, hearing your testimony.
I was gonna 7 minutes. I talked to Sweet Pea the other day on the phone because, like I mentioned, I was going to have her, which we did today, visit my daughter at the ranch. And so she asked me, I'll talk a little bit if I could share again some of the stuff that I was teaching, and it probably deserves a whole teaching, but I'm going to do it real short because this deals with why do loved ones die. And what about if you're in love with the person and they die? And there's a lot of teachings that a lot of churches do, and a lot of them have degrees of truth to them. But we have a tendency in Christianity to make things bigger than they are. And many years ago, I visited a preacher here. His name was Mickey Bonner. He was an old-time Baptist preacher, and he was at the Church of Acts, which is a few streets away from here on Carroll Lane. And I liked him, but Mickey Bonner, and I looked at all his cassette tapes and books and all, and he learned, as a Baptist preacher, he learned that we have the authority, which is true, to cast out devils. And the old Baptists used to just think that was Pentecostals and crazies. Well, some experience Mickey Bonner had. He passed away by now, but he learned that it was true, which was good, because it is true. We have the authority over all the power of the enemy. Nothing shall by any means hurt us. But then when I visited Mickey Bonner and I saw the teaching, every single tape teaching was what we call spiritual warfare. And then after a while, I still liked Mickey Bonner, but I realized that because his past church experience didn't believe in it, when he realized it was true, that almost became his entire ministry, which he would tell people that his whole ministry is just casting out demons, spiritual warfare. So every meeting, every time, every teaching, every tape, it was unbalanced, is what I'm trying to say, without being critical. Well, the other teaching, the reason I mentioned that, is there's something called soul ties. Now, are soul ties real things? Yes. But some made, I just saw one of the churches recently are doing a whole thing on breaking soul ties and all. But I bring it up to say this. In the Bible, I'm going to do it real quick. There was a prophet by the name of Hosea. And we read about him in the Old Testament book of Hosea. And God says to Hosea, chapter 3, says, go love a woman that's loved of somebody else. Her name is Gomer. And I want you to marry that woman. And she's a prostitute. And I want you to love that woman and marry that woman, and she's a prostitute. And she is not going to repent. She is not going to change. You're going to have a relationship. This is in the Bible, and this guy's a prophet. It's in the Bible. And you're going to learn what it means to live with a wife who is unfaithful, who you got to worry about, oh, where'd she go? She said she was, now I'm doing an analogy. She took the car keys, so she was going for cigarettes, and now she's gone for 2 hours. I have friends that have those types of relationships with wives, people they're in love with. And they live their entire experience not being secure. It says in Proverbs 31 that the virtuous woman, her husband can trust in her, doesn't have to worry about her doing stuff, has no need. But why do my friends, who I've given advice over the years, or why did Hosea stick with that woman? She was giving him all that hell. Yeah. Because once he obeyed the command of God to love her, he didn't have the power to unlove her. Wow. See, God said to Hosea, you go love this woman, you marry this woman, her name was Gomer. That's her name. And once he went that far, it wasn't God couldn't tell him a month later or a year later, okay, now unlove her. You're in. See, a soul tie is when you're connected in a relationship or in a marriage. And when you're in, you're in. And even if that Gomer was giving him hell, he couldn't let her go. Now, what do we get out of that? And the reason I brought some of that up was, even Connie would mention, when her common law husband passed away finally, she didn't understand. That's why Jimmy's story came up. And she got some understanding when Jimmy said, God, let it go. But you could still have that love, even after the mate's gone, because it's the soul. You connect. Now, Paul teaches in the New Testament that this is a great mystery. And he's talking about marriage, and then he says, but I speak concerning Christ and the church. And what you get out of that example of Hosea was this. You in your lifetime, you can learn things with your head knowledge. I teach all these things you see me teach on the site. But what you learn is love is not something, and this is showing us the love of God for us. It's not something that you analyze and say, in Homer's case, Hosea's case, Gomer, once you loved her, you're stuck. You're hooked. And he was showing us the love of God. And we were even talking about Judas Iscariot on the way back from the ranch. I said, Jesus loved Judas. He loved him. But he knew from the beginning, it says he was a son of perdition. From the beginning, Jesus knew that Judas was going to betray him and fulfill the scripture. Why would he still love him? Because it was in him to love him. And then to suffer the betrayal that he knew was coming. But that's what love is. And a lot of these relationships that people are in, and they say, if I could just break this soul tie, and that's how a lot of these things come in. And
I beg God to do that.
I believe that God can break what's referred to as soul ties. I believe God can break that. But why is it such a predominant thing that some whole churches and ministries just teach on that one thing? Because what you're missing is the power of love or the power of a connection. And when Paul was writing the Corinthian church, Corinth in the New Testament, that was the wild city of the Bible, Corinth. And of all the Christian churches, it would be like Amsterdam of today. Those of you that Amsterdam prostitutes are in windows and all. I've never been there, but that's the history of Amsterdam.
Drugs too are in the stores.
And I was going to say Corinth, the city in the Bible actually, was like that. So some of the Christians, when they became Christians, they didn't think much about, oh, we're still going to sleep around and do various things. And it's in that letter that Paul says, know you not that whosoever connects with the prostitute, he's saying the two become one. Now look, Paul's teaching that to them, and they're not officially married. There's no letter. He's saying even if you sleep with a prostitute, there's going to be a tie there. You're going to defile yourself. So, but this shows you the power of relationships. And in, I believe, the little thing of Hosea to marry Gomer, and once he was in, he was hooked. And that was a cross that Hosea had to bear, because after a year of that relationship, there was no, okay, God, I fulfilled this symbol as a prophet that you asked me to fulfill. You ain't what, because that's a symbol of love. And Solomon, it's a type of Christ in the church, that God loved us so much that he went and died for the sins of the world. And this is a theological debate, I'm not going to do it now. But he died for the sins of the whole world, even the ones he knew would not accept him. Right. He knew that, because love compels you to say, I'll even lay my life down, even for the ones that won't even benefit from it. It's a big theological thing, and my Reformed brothers, I don't want to do that now, okay? I understand the difference between what some teach on that. So I was just sharing that with Connie the other night, and she asked to share it again. I said, I'll do some of it on video, but I said, when we jump into these relationships, and I have friends right now in relationships that the same thing happens, and some of my other friends are mad because they said that my one friend, we're going to bail you out one more time because your girl did this and she ran off and did this. You know them all, but I'm not going to give the names. And they did bail him out. They said, okay, she did it again. The girl did this. She relapsed. And they said, but don't you get her out of jail this time, because we spent this much, we told this, we did this. A week later, she was out. Everybody's mad again. But when we get attached like that, we don't really have power over that. And King Solomon wrote one book.
I'm going to do it this time.
It's called The Song of Solomon. And people think he wrote that about his one true love. Out of all the women, that Solomon had a lot of women. So, but Solomon talks about love in that book, The Song of Solomon. And so even the wisest man learned that that one thing that God put in humanity, which is the ability to love, we're in the image of God, that's not something we analyze. That's not something we decide, I'm in love with this person, but it's not to my benefit, so I'm not going to be. That's something you don't really have power over. And even after a mate dies, sometimes people still, that's why a lot of times another mate will die soon after these people that are married their whole lives. So I wanted to get that on the, you want to ask anything, Connie, or share anything?
Well, the thing is even though my case is a little different, hadn't lived with him for 10 years, but we had this love for each other. He had alcohol problems, smoked dope. You know, I have to walk what I believe. And I had to depart from him. And we have to...
You notice it takes a whole life to figure that out too, right?
Yeah.
It took you a long time, right? It did me 30-something years. I didn't understand.
Well, I was with him like 6 years. And what I was wanting to say about it is it's the Lord that knits hearts together. You know, if you look it up, a marriage license started by the Catholic Church. If you look the history up on it, it's not that piece of paper. That doesn't have anything to do with it. It's God brings people together. And a lot of times we choose people that he didn't choose for us.
Well, Jesus said, because they asked him about divorce in the New Testament.
But I'm saying we hook up with people that he doesn't call us to hook up with.
Yes. But when they asked Jesus that, he said, what God hath joined together, let not man put asunder. So we understand marriage even before the days of certificates and all. See, Adam and Eve were married, and they did not have any of that.
Right.
So God puts people together, okay? And man does not put asunder. Now, some people I've heard Christians say, I got divorced from my wife, or I divorced my husband. because that wasn't the one God had for me.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people can abuse those scriptures
Yeah,
in that way. But marriage, see, is two coming together. Now that does not justify any two people coming together whenever they want to sleep with each other, but it's a union that is beyond having the certificate, beyond having that, but it's also not just me picking each other, because even in the New Testament, the woman that was in adultery, the woman at the well, John chapter 4, very famous story, go call your husband, he tells her. She says, I have none. I'm not married. He says, that's right. But you've been with this many, and the man you're with, you're not married to.
Yeah.
So there was a distinction. Just being with that person didn't say, okay, I acknowledge that as marriage. So we do see a distinction, but it's not paper. It's not just a certificate.
Right. It's yeah.
Affairs of hearts are messy, definitely. I wanted to, you said something, and I wanted to comment about over a lifetime. I don't. That's how long it took for me, and a lot of it I didn't find out till later on. Even just a couple months ago, I started finding out a lot of things about other, things that I didn't understand, and put all the pieces together, and they're starting to fit. But when I finally did make it into my father's grace again, like the prodigy son, by this time I had another wife, and we weren't married, but we made kids, so we were married. And I left her finally, but the one that died is the one that I know would have. She didn't do all the evil things that the other girls that I was with did. She just didn't do it, and I know my life would have been different. I know for a fact that would have been a different person because of we are products of our environment. The environment would have been different, and I would have been a different person. I would have been a criminal or any of this crap. I've been a tugboat captain for one thing, and had a great life. It would have been totally different, but that's not what happened, and that's not what God had my plan. But I learned what the deal was. We're not gods, and He is. He's got His job, and we got ours. He's toiling in the sun and creating other humans, and men and women are different things, and they got their job, marry children and raise them and make your family and give you time, a man to give time to get closer to his God. And I know all these things and how it works, but I didn't then, and it took a long time to figure it out. But when it did, it made perfect sense and I understand. But my mother, she keeps on bringing it up.
What was that wife's name? That
Phyllis.
Phyllis.
Yeah, we call her Philly. And I like to say 35 years, memories fade. And one day I was out there at the farm. My father had already passed. Mom's in the truck, so her dad's truck was breaking down, so I took her. Then he tells me, get the minivan, clean it up, take it to mom, fill it up, and take it to mom. So I did. Took six-pack Kim with us, all the kids. And while we're there, she says, she's going through the album, one of the Fobo albums, and she says, oh, here's Philly, look how pretty she was. And I thought, oh, crap. And I look at it, and all the memories sort of flown back. Now mom has gone to say, well, Philly's up there, and she's still to me. You straighten your life out, you can still be your wife. See, with the Mormons, they got
Yes.
married for heaven and life eternal. Ever. And she's there waiting for her. Straighten up. Quite right. And then, and another
They
thing
were raised
I know,
more.
and I've been lately, it's really killing me, is a little talk that Brother Ray had a couple weeks ago. Do I know you? And I don't know you. And even if we say, oh, yes, you know me. Just like praying for you. You answer a lot of my prayers, and he'd say, I don't know you.
Jimmy
And
remembered
that's something you got to dig deep into your heart. Are you going to be in
Brother
that
Ray.
number?
You remembered what Brother Ray
gonna be
from
in that
Church
number?
Without Walls preached a couple weeks ago. And Jesus did say,
Rapture?
I don't know you. Depart from me. And so that stuck with
He's
Jimmy.
here, get burned up,
Kind of share. We went 24 minutes. We're only going to do a few more minutes. Any words you want to share?
Well, when you said something about when she passed away, you said
That's it.
cursed God. I want to say that.
I was young too.
Well, that's fine, but what I've learned through life is that we always can't control what's going on. We don't know the whys or the reasons.
We're children.
But God knows our hearts. And that sometimes things work in our life to change us. You know, it's just thinking not strange the fiery trials that come upon you.
Right.
They're to temper us and change us. For instance, the Bible says the heart is desperately wicked. Who can know it? And you can think about a cabbage. It's sort of, pull one leaf back, there's a leaf. Well, that leaf, there's another. And that's how evil is in our heart. And the Bible talks about iniquities being bent up, and it means bent over. And so we react sometimes in the way because we're hurt so bad. And at the same time, the things that were in your heart came out because of that great pain and that great suffering, and you became bitter. And so then also you have to understand that all the things you say that you went and did that were wrong, like I've been guilty too, even after I got saved, those things are still working.
Sure.
They're still working in our favor to change us into His image. And so the most important thing I can say is to walk in forgiveness always. Always forgiving. It's a choice. It's hard, but it's a choice. What you have to do is just choose to do it and cast down all the vain imaginations that come against your mind. Say no to them and quote what the Word of God says about you. Okay, I'm hurt. I've been hurt. But I forgive them and I forget it. And we have to forget. And it's something you practice.
Yeah.
Forgiveness is a choice.
Can I tell you about the last one?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And you were it fits right in what you were saying, the whore and all this. It's perfect. About 5-6 years ago, I got a phone call about 2 in the morning. It's a young friend of mine. It's one of my son's best friends from school, Josh. He still comes around. One of my Padawans. He calls me and says, "Jimbo, there's this lady here. She'll give you $10 to take you to the store." And so she wants a bag of cigarettes. And I'm like, it's Wednesday and I need I could use another $10 from my overhead to get to Friday. And I'm working at the refineries. I'm making tons of money, but I spent too much, okay? But I'm making it if I don't have, but I can really use another 10. So I jump up and run. When I get there, the doors start off this ugly little trailer in a nasty little trailer court, white barrio. And I look through the door, and there's a beautiful woman in the arms of this kid, and I go, God, Lord, why can't I have one of those, please? I'm so tired of this. It's been a long time. You know, all these other girls, they were so rough on me. Can't I have the right one now? And that's a pretty one. Why can't I have one that looks like that and be the right one? Desire, hope, and desire. So I take her. I wake up. You rides here. Let's go to the store. I said, you know, like, why, Lord? This loser gets one and I can't. So we take her to the store. She says, put the gas in. I got you. I'm going to the ATM machine. Sure enough, she tells the cash register. She turns the machine on. I pump $10. About 5-10 minutes goes by. She pumps 15. I go inside. So what's it, lady? We gotta go. She said, this machine, I've been trying, but it's not, I don't think it's landed. It's not there. And then the cashier hears it, and she's picking up the other phone. I said, whoa, nope, don't do that. Here's your $10, lady, out of my own overhead. And
You fell in love with her.
but hang on, and then I said, come on, honey, I got this. Let's go home. And I paid the gas, and she taps me on the shoulder and she says, Mister, can I have one pack of cigarettes from my mama? And I turn around and look. I knew right away, but it was already too late. And I was smitten. And I bought her a pack of cigarettes. From the very moment I met her, she'd been ripping me off, burning me up like nobody's business.
Jimmy was, I used to,
But I understand all that too now. And one day, Grandma, about
Jimmy falls in love.
2 years into it, Cindy's a bitch, but she's beautiful and evil, mean, and all of this sociopath. Grandma turns to me, and Grandma's getting her meds, her Chocotos, they're all hooked on them. They're both fucking junkies.
hey, you're giving too much away. She's going to get in trouble on the video.
It's funny. It's hilarious. I'll make you laugh.
Jimmy's-
And she turns to me and she goes, "How do you take that bitch's shit?" And I look at Grandma and I said, "Grandma, it ain't easy being cheesy." And we laugh. There's a second of ha ha ha, fall to rock. and then silence again.
I'm gonna let
And she says,
I'm gonna
"What
let
are you
Jimmy
really
tell
up
the
to?
rest.
What are you really up to?"
Let me-
Ask her.
I'm gonna let you tell the rest, but let me finish the video and then you tell the rest. And when I met Jimmy a couple years ago, that was the struggle right there, Cindy. And it wasn't really a joke, but one time after I was helping Jimmy a few times,
Getting away from her.
I told Jimmy, I said, Jimmy, I don't make any rules with the guys. I said, but I'm making one. I don't want to hear, at the time, I said, I don't want to hear you mention Cindy again. Because he needed that at the time, because a lot of, at that time, this is relationships today. That's what we're talking about, relationships. But
And I was special too.
it was on his mind, okay?
I asked
And
her,
this is a big thing.
who do I go for the pain with?
With all of us, it's a big
Like I
thing.
said,
Relationships. A lot of my friends, I noticed, because I asked them, working with the guys that relapsed and all, I almost had 3 years sober, by the way. This is good for these guys to know, because they always wonder sometimes. So I'm still clean. But I noticed, even in the guys that I asked about, what led to your relapse, what led, just over my time with the AA guys, a big thing was either the girl left,
relationships.
the wife divorced. A big thing was that, and I'm not blaming it on that. I'm just saying that was a big thing. That was a big stumbling block. I'm going to let Jimmy keep talking, but I'm going to show the video. I don't want to have all of
Yeah.
Cindy's
It gets ugly,
crimes
but
on
it's
video here, because God's merciful. She got out of jail, Cindy, not too long ago. I hope you got something. It's about 31 minutes. I didn't do a whole lot on the Hosea, but there was some insights on that, where Hosea himself, as a prophet, had a task. And in the Old Testament, you see things with Isaiah and the prophets that their lives were symbols, not only the things they were speaking, but the things that were happening to them. They did signs and things. And so the Hosea sign that he was going to live out before the people was, the reason God did that, he was telling Hosea, this is going to be a sign to my people, Israel, how I'm jealous over them. And they're out doing all these other things. It says in the book of James, the spirit that is in us, God's spirit longs jealously over us. God is jealous of his people. It says in 1 John, love not the world, neither things that are in the world. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life is not of the Father, but is of the world. And the world passeth away, and the lust thereof, but he that doeth the will of God abideth forever. So God was showing to Hosea a symbol that just like when he married Gomer and fell in love with her, and then she kept doing that, he as a symbol, his cross was, but God, this is a test, this is a symbol, but I'm upset, I'm jealous, she's out, she's sleeping with all these men. That's the price. That was the cross he bore. In that one instance, to be connected to that Gomer. And so there's a lot of insights, I think, that I couldn't teach. But I wanted to give you that. All right? Say goodbye, Connie.
Goodbye. Y'all have
Jimmy,
a great
say
Hey,
goodbye.
you have a great life, guys. See you next time.
Okay. Bill, say hi. Bill's new. Yeah, I told him, I said I do videos. Okay? That's it for today. God bless you all. Now, Jimmy.